Hello, hello. Yes, I would talk about how we can use custom CSS properties inside inline styles. This talk was very inspired by all the utility first approaches to CSS, and you could remember this from the first talk today, so I wouldn't talk about more. But there was one argument that, yeah, inline styling can actually be a bad practice, and it's considered a bad practice. But what if it's not? And this is what I would talk today about. First, a bit of a disclaimer. This is very experimental, and it's not production-proof. And of course, it can have a lot of performance issues because it uses a lot of not conventional stuff. And it works, of course, only in modern browsers, i.e. that wouldn't support it. So let's start. Here is our element. It has some inline style. It has not a regular property, but custom property, but named margin top. And then in our CSS, what we can do is we can target with the attribute selector this element, which contains this definition of a property, and apply this variable to the property. And that's it. What it allows us to do is that we have our CSS very short. Unlike usual utility approaches, we don't have all the values in it. We have only one definition for this property. And then we apply it via our inline styles. Basically, how we would write our class name, but using inline custom property. And this allows us to have really the same thing that utility CSS allows. We don't have the problems of inline styles. We don't have the specificity problems. Because if we wouldn't use these inline styles anywhere else, these custom properties, except for their definitions in CSS, we would have all the order of the priorities and all the specificity of these attribute selectors. So, yeah. And this allows us actually to do a lot of interesting stuff. For example, we can also have inline styles and declare hover states or other states in them. So here what we are doing is that in our CSS we have one definition for basically every hover that we could want. We would have an invalid value for a hover on every element, and then we hover it, we get the initial value. And using the trick with the variable, we can apply this only when we hover something. This can be done, of course, with meta queries. We can use this and other ways to do stuff. For example, we can have a switch between two values using how variables work. I don't have much time to dig into how this works exactly, but you can read a lot in different articles. For example, in my article, Conditions for CSS Variables, or in a lot of very great practical articles by Anna Tudor on CSS tricks. And yeah, finally, you need to make sure that there are potential problems with performance because we are using the attribute selector. It's not as performant. We are using custom properties, and they are calculated at runtime. So for small projects, you can try this. It could actually work. For larger ones, you may be wary. And in the future, things could be better. We have Houdini, and with it, we could get probably better performance by disabling the inheritance for our properties, and we could have initial values other than the HTML initial. And this could make our conditions much better. And maybe one day we would get a way to get attribute value using the attr function, and maybe one day we could have native conditions. That's it. I would probably write an article starting the next year about this much in depth, and that's it. Thank you.